when in all actuality, trust is not about reliability of the other person, it's vulnerability based. If I'm willing to be exposed, if I'm willing to have my faults and my flaws and my shortcomings on the table, then trust can happen.
Chad Peterman here, and you are listening to Can't Stop the Growth, a platform for leaders and teams to grow and thrive. We highlight the importance of personal development, pursuing greatness, and always chasing your potential. Let's get into it.
And I think like the fascinating thing about everything that you read that's either like a self-help or like a business or like an organizational book or any of those things is it's like this interwoven fabric of like ideas that are just taken for like nothing's really new anymore, right? It's like there's probably a bunch of books that were written in like the 1940s, 50s, and 60s that are just getting regurgitated a la the influence by Cialdini. I always mispronounce his name, Cialdini. And just like anytime you look at these things, what I will say is Patrick Lencioni. So he wrote the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. I think he's got like 12 or 13 books that he wrote, and he writes in a really interesting way. He essentially creates this like realistic fiction storyline about a business, and it has characters, and he uses the story to sort of present his concepts and ideas. And the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team is built upon this notion that teams don't fail because of like a lack of resources. They don't fail because of a lack of motivation or skill or talent or intelligence or capital. Right? They fail because of dysfunction. They fail because the team doesn't operate as a team. Think about it. How many times have we seen, you're going to love this, in sports, right? How many times have we seen in sports like this mega team get created that has all the best talent, all the best players, and yet they don't win the title. They don't come out on top, but they had the best, right? They had the top. They weren't on top, and they had the top talent, right? And so the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team is all about this idea of there are essentially dysfunctions that deride your opportunity to reach achievement, right? And these dysfunctions they cascade. It's like without this one, it then leads to this one that leads to this that leads to this, right? It has this cascading like sort of motion to it. And the base of fascinating, this is gonna really blow some minds in here today. The base, so when Lencioni builds out the 5 dysfunctions, he builds it into a pyramid, and the base of the pyramid is the absence of trust. Trust is really interesting because like trust to me is like it feels like it's like super like growing up, I guess I thought trust was like this transactional thing, like you give it to get it. It was like almost like trust was built on the idea of like can I rely on you, like can I trust you? My father, my dad is from Florida, and he grew up in Bloomington, which, by the way, Indiana Hoosier football, holy smokes, incredible stuff. He grew up in Bloomington, and my dad always reminded me as a kid that when he played, he was born in 1949, so he's 76, and he reminds me all the time that when he played basketball, two things were true then that are no longer true. Number one, in Indiana, when he played high school basketball, it was single class basketball. So you could only have one champion. I don't know, some of you might have been old enough in the 90s when Indiana moved to class basketball. You would have thought there would have been a civil war because it was like this very iconic part of basketball tradition in this state, right? It's like you can only have one winner. That's why you get every 100 years a story like Hickory with the Hoosiers, and it's not obviously Hickory. Thank you, the Milan Miracle. That's why you got to have the little person over here that's fact checking you during The Milan Miracle, right? But my dad always reminds me, number one, there was only one class. Like we only played with one class. Like if you wanted to be the best. And I think they got ranked like number 4 or 5 in the state. And number two, he'd always remind me that when he shot the ball, it would have counted for 3 points back then, but back they didn't have a 3-point line. Right. So he was like a deep shooter, but he only got 2 points for making the basket. Instead of today, he would have gotten 3. So he'd always remind me of those things. And so my dad my dad loved basketball. He played college basketball. And then like when he grew up, like he was a coach when I was a little kid, and then and when I was in middle school, not junior high, but like 5th, 6th grade. But anyway, he always went to my basketball games, loved basketball. And my dad did this thing where regardless of how I played, no matter what, we would get in the car and he would start to tell me all the things that I did wrong. Right? That's what parents do, right? They keep you humble. And I like looking back on it, it's painful, and I don't want to get into like the interstellar concept of time again and lost opportunities with our parents. But I really regret the way that I reacted as a kid, because a lot of the times I would like shut down and I would almost like I would defend myself. I would get super defensive. Well, like I wasn't accepting this critical feedback. And when I look back on that, you could think like, oh, you didn't trust your father. It's like the one person, the people in your life that you probably should trust the easiest, it feels like should be like where you should really like confide in and be vulnerable is your family, right? And it's like what I realized about trust when I reflect on that experience with my dad is my definition of trust was based on like reliability, when in all actuality, trust is not about reliability of the other person. It's vulnerability based. It's like, as an individual, am I willing, like, I can trust you if and only if I'm willing to be vulnerable, if I'm willing to be exposed, if I'm willing to have my faults and my flaws and my shortcomings on the table, then trust can happen, right? And I think it was because in front of my dad, because this is the same person that I wanted to impress, right? Wow, the Sigmund and Freud would be having like a field day, right? Like, what a treat, right? You were like, we get to find out about your childhood and your inner child, right? I didn't want my dad to think or know that I did not know something. I didn't want to make a mistake. And I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to be perceived as a failure. Now, a part of that, my therapist in New York would have said, it probably has something to do with my mom being a perfectionist and me adopting a lot of those attributes. But it was really interesting when I think about that trust. And fascinatingly enough, this past weekend, so I've had to like play more of this sport called golf. I'm not like a huge fan. Like, it's fun. You can have a couple like adult beverages on the course and it's an enjoyable thing. But I've realized with work that this is the thing that a lot of people like to do in a professional setting, especially men. And here we are. So now I am a golfer and I have golf attire. And my dad was also a golf coach. So I was hanging out with some friends close to where my parents live. They live outside of like Trafalgar, Morgantown, Lamb Lake area. And I was like, you know what? There's a driving range, Tamika Woods. And I reached out to my dad and I was like, hey, unfortunately, I thought the golf season was over, but I have to go to this wedding in Arizona this weekend. And the husbands of my girlfriend's friends invited me because, it's golf and they need a fourth person, not because they probably, I would like to believe they genuinely want me to come, but also they got to fill out the foursome and they probably didn't want, like, there's probably a couple other husbands, boyfriends, partners, whatever, but I would like to believe they picked me over like the last call, right? And I was like, unfortunately, Dad, there's still some golf left to be played this season. And while I don't mind making a fool of myself in front of our manufacturing friends or my own personal friends, I'd prefer that I don't make a fool out of myself in front of these folks. And so we went over to Tamika Woods, great setup there, fully autonomous. No one manages the driving range. It's out in the middle of nowhere, if you know what Trafalgar Land is like. And me and my dad spent like 90 minutes, and I told myself like I was going to be open, I was going to be vulnerable, I was going to listen to the wisdom. He was a golf coach, right? He at one time actually thought he was gonna try to join the pro tour as a golfer. And then my mom got pregnant, and then you guys, we all know how, kids just destroy all dreams, right? It's like that's the um uh um so I spent this time with him, and it was incredible. Like, it was incredible to spend time with my dad, but it was incredible for me when I reflected on it, like, um just being willing to like accept the coaching that I asked for. And it was different because it's like I asked for it. But what was different, the only thing that was really different was me. The only thing that had changed was me. Because like I wasn't the kid afraid of failing anymore. I was the kid who was open and willing to accept the criticism and willing to be told, you're still coming up in your stance. Like I don't know what else to tell you. Like you're still right. You're not staying down on the ball. You're still coming up. Can you step up a little closer? Your foot should be over you. And it was an incredible experience. And I actually left that experience feeling like, you know what? I might actually be able to do this sport golf thing a little bit better, right? And that's the goal, right? To get a little bit better. But I know it seems like I'm harping so much on trust, and I think that's because it's like trust isn't this like concrete. It just seems so easy, and I think for me, a lot of the paradigm shift and like reframing in my mind is like trust is not about the other person. It's about you. It's about yourself, right? It's like if you've ever done a trust fall. Sorry if you have. I mean, but yeah, it's like if you went to camp as a kid, or I even we had a professional development where we did a trust fall with adults. That was interesting, but like it's not called a trust catch. It's called a trust fall. Like they can't catch you unless you fall. They can't catch you unless you're vulnerable enough to take the fall. Think about that. Like the hesitation comes and us thinking we can't trust the person. But the reality is if we don't even give them the opportunity, if we don't show up vulnerable to do that, then they don't even get the chance. I think it was like Ernest Hemingway, great writer, really short, to the point. He was like, the best way to find out if you can trust somebody is to trust somebody. Mind blowing, right? So let's talk about this like in the context of business. Again, like trust isn't about reliability. It's not like I trust you to show up on time. I trust you to deliver the 6 options. I trust you to do what's right for the customer. I mean, sure, it's vulnerable. It's vulnerability based. It's I trust you enough to admit I don't know something. I trust you enough to know that I'm not perfect. I trust you enough to be able to share with you that I make mistakes and I fail all the time. I think one of my favorite like teacher moments in this organization was working with Drew Gomez, who awesome dude. Awesome dude. He's been here, I think, over 11 years now. He had his 11th anniversary. And just like such a humble person, and that like Drew has played the roles that we've needed him to play time and time again. If anyone is like a company first person, I would look to this guy. And I remember having this conversation with him one time because, Drew is by trade a plumber, right? And he's someone who embraced and was asked to call the call. He answered the call to teach and to train, right? But that's something that like people go to school and learn to do. And he's kind of learning it on the fly. And we had this conversation, and he was like, well, I like, one of the things I have to make sure of is that I always have the answer for these guys. Like I gotta always make sure that I have the answer. And I was like, oof, that sounds stressful. I was like, are you open to some feedback on that, Drew? And he's like, absolutely. I was like, don't do that to yourself. And also like, don't do it to them. Like you're robbing them of the very experience of knowing that they don't have to be perfect either, that they're going to make mistakes, that they don't know everything, that they're going to fail. And I think if you can, I mean, that's to me what trust is. It's being vulnerable enough to know that you acknowledge that you don't know something, that you can be corrected, that a different truth can be brought. Like we've talked about this, right? We talked about be curious, pursue the opposite. I think these are all like the steps that you have to do to build trust, because otherwise I think we treat trust like it's this transactional thing, right? It's like I either do it or I don't do it. I'm like, that's not what trust is. It's like, it's this individual journey of consciously being vulnerable. Because I mean, especially in this industry we work in, right? What's the stigma and motto of the industry we work in? It's like, this is tough work, so we got to be tough. Isn't it? That's the motto. This is tough work. I got to be old school. I got to be a hard ass, because that's what someone did to me. That's what we do. When we see our strength as a strength, when really it is our weakness, it's our vulnerability that is the strength. And I think that when we model the humility to fail, when we model the humility and the opportunity to be vulnerable, we invite other people to do the same. And then what you'll find is that it's no longer this like unidirectional experience. It becomes bidirectional with you and the people that you lead, with you and the people that you manage, with you and the people that you guide, with you and the people that you develop, right? But they're not going to do that. They're not going to show up and be vulnerable. You have to unconsciously give them permission to do that, because you show up doing that every single day. Because that's the reality, right? It's like managers who hide their weaknesses set that tone for their team. Think about that. You set that tone for your team. You get to be the recovering perfectionist. It's terrible. I think teams that operate without vulnerability are just simply they're wasting energy covering up things, right? You spend more time, you waste more energy covering up and like problems instead of solving problems. Right? It was like a mind-blowing concept when I taught fifth graders in Brooklyn. It was like, if you break something, tell me. It's like, man, can you imagine that feeling as a kid? Like, I broke the glass graduated cylinder or the glass beaker. Like, what do kids are naturally inclined to do? What? Hide it. I don't have kids, but I have 16 nieces and nephews. Now my sister just gave birth last week, so number 16 is in the world. They either hide it or they lie about it. Like, they're kids, right? Unless as a parent, unless we modeled for them, like, making mistakes is okay. Being vulnerable is okay, right? It's like, let them break the egg in the kitchen. I would venture as far to say, let them touch the stove too, but I'll leave that up to you. It's like, that's how you learn, right? I think in high stakes environment, like what we do when we take care of strangers. Think about that. Like, we are an emergency service and we take care of strangers. What happens in this industry? Well, one, I think what the work we do is so personal, which is great. I think that's great. I think part of that is like a highly American thing, that like our identity is so wrapped up in our professional lives. But I think it's great that that we take the work we do personally, because you know why? That means you care. I think that means you care. You care about your work, you care about your career, and you care about the people, you care about your colleagues, you care about the mission, I hope. You care about the core values, I hope. You care about the communities we impact and the market. When we go into a new market, like, I think two things instantaneously. Number one, holy smokes, like, we get to provide premium service to strangers that may not have been exposed to it. And number two, we get to employ more people. We get to give more people an opportunity to support their families and grow in their trajectory of their careers. But like, if you don't have trust, like, if we're not willing to be vulnerable and own our mistakes and accept welcome the feedback, then like, we're not going to get there. That is exactly why when we talk about the finger pointing and the blame culture, that's why that happens. And you know when blame culture is really easy? Blame culture is really easy when you have a larger organization that gets siloed naturally. That's when blame culture becomes, that is like the classic scapegoat blame. Oh, it was marketing. Nope. It was this. Nope. The dev team. Nope. That's when blame culture becomes really easily. Not like, hey, maybe we could, I don't know, maybe we could work on getting our conversion rate up from 20%, to 45, 50, 60. So the calls that we did pay for and run, there's an ROI on that. I would like, this is like the hardest part. Like trust is like this nebulous thing, right? But I think in our minds, we've thought of it as like purely transactional. It's like you either give it or you don't. You either get it or you don't. It's like, no, trust is you showing up and saying, you know what? Like I'm going to allow myself to be wrong and fail and expose that and allow it to be exposed. Because we've all seen it, right? We've all been in that conversation or a one-on-one or a meeting where the feedback, right, in the form of an observation is welcomed with defensiveness. Anytime I sit in a meeting and someone says something and I hear someone respond almost instantaneously, I'm like, whoop, there is trust lacking in this room. It's like the telltale sign. A healthy working environment should be that we are able to sharpen each other. We are able to call out mistakes. We're able to question, right? We're able to bring criticism in a healthy, constructive way, right? And we're able to receive that, explore that, own that, acknowledge that, and then move on. And then you know what happens? We get better. But like no trust, it's defensiveness. It's like, it's two things. It's like the wall of defense. It's also like the tone. That's when you can really tell. When somebody's tone just shifts in the conversation, you're like, oh crap. And as much as I want to sit here and say it's like really easy to point the finger at that person who's being defensive, I think the only place we should be pointing the finger is at ourselves. Because we didn't show up being vulnerable. We didn't model that we make mistakes ourselves, right? So I want you to think about that. Like, think about like, what do you think right now is like a professional weakness? And it feels weird saying weakness because I've usually been one of those learning and development guys who's like, it's a growth opportunity. It's an area of growth. It's a weakness. Like, I don't think I should shy away from that. Like, what is a professional weakness or mistake, right, that you've either had or continue to have with your team or with your colleagues that is preventing Peterman Brothers from reaching the levels of success that is possible? So I'll tell you mine in the effort and the spirit of being vulnerable. But you should always think of a strength too. What do I think my professional strength is that contributes to the success of this organization? I think that I offer like a different perspective that I think allows me to have a certain level of versatility. And in that, because I'm not tethered to certain concepts or historical modes of doing things, I think it allows me to recognize patterns faster. And when you recognize patterns faster, I think you can solve problems faster and easier. So I think I can see trends. I think I can also, I think I have a high emotional intelligence. I think that I can look at people and sense what's going on and make sure that I calibrate myself to cater to their needs. My weakness, what is my professional weakness that is preventing Peterman Brothers to get better is I am a perfectionist who is still the little fifth grader with his dad who's afraid of failure, who's afraid of looking stupid. I mean, we did the Johari window with managers, and intelligence was one of the things. And I got a bunch of little intelligence check marks, which I then perceive as like, wow, people respect that I have a wide perspective. I know a lot about a lot of things, right? Which is great. But then the flip side of that is then you don't not want to ever not be the intelligent person. And I think why our company suffers because of my fear of failure is then I over-engineer things. I overthink things. And then when I overthink things, I decide that, you know what, maybe I should just do them myself because that's the perfectionist coming out. And then I don't delegate them. And when I don't delegate them, two things happen. I get over encumbered with work. And then number two, and even worse, I rob the people I manage of the opportunity to take on a new challenge. I have 3 regional managers that report to me, and one of them always consistently asks me, what can I help you with? What can I take off your plate? What can I do? And my weakness is thinking that like, I'm protecting this person, I'm shielding this person, I'm my perfection, and really like I'm robbing this person from an opportunity to add more value to the organization. So that's my professional weakness. Take 5 minutes today. Just think about it. Like, what are the strengths that you bring to the table that make this organization better? And maybe take 2 minutes with that one. Like, give yourself, like, it's important. It's important to acknowledge those things because everybody in this organization brings such valuable strengths that have gotten us to where we are and will continue to get us to new heights. And then maybe spend 3 minutes and allow yourself to even like trust is interesting because part of the vulnerability is trusting yourself, right? Be gentle with yourself, have some grace, but reflect on what are your professional weaknesses that are preventing or hindering Peterman Brothers, because it's preventing or hindering your team or yourself. But these are things that are preventing Peterman Brothers to reaching the success that we know is possible.
Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to connect with me personally, you can find me at chadmpeterman.com. To see what our team's up to, you can visit petermanbros.com. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel and consider joining the CSTG arena. As always, keep growing out there.